Good evening to each and every one of you on Facebook land. Let me cut off this music. Brothers and sisters, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. Jerry is right here in the waiting room. Let me bring on Jerry just so we get straight into this, the meat of this thing. Jerry, are you there? All right. 𝐉𝐞𝐫𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐻 bien. 𝐷𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 𝐷𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻. All right. Very good. Well, I don't have you live. Just let me make sure that's good. Let me just tune in, say, acknowledge our folks online. And I'll take a look 1 second, Jerry. Good night, folks. Greetings, each and every one of you. Tonight, I got you, Jerry. Let me make a little adjustment here. So, yes, man, you look good. You look brand new. You look like you just come for States. All right, let me bring on Jerry. There we go. Good night to each and every one of you. How are you guys doing? Tonight, I have with me a man that's no stranger to most of us. Jerry doesn't like a lot of titles and fancy anything that goes before his name. For me, he's a friend, he's a warrior, he's a fighter. He has been fighting for redistricting, for fair election for quite some time now. And he has gotten this far in taking the government to court. The government have been spending a whole lot of the people's money fighting against what is highly beneficial for the people of Belize. That is counterproductive. So they're using our money to fight against something that will benefit us, especially most of us here in the South. And I want to say before I bring on Jerry, and let me just put you up on the screen here as I am talking. I just want to say it is a selfish thing for us to have this knowledge, for us to have this understanding of what's happening. It's a selfish thing. It's very complacent of us to just stand by and allow one man to take on this ginormous fight on all of our behalf. Now, throughout this broadcast, I will be sharing a link and a barcode for a GoFundMe for each and every one of you. If you have a friend in the States, if you have a family member in the States, I am humbly asking those of you who say you support Cyril Uruwei, you support this show, I am asking you to contribute to that GoFundMe to help Jerry take care of attorney fees. This is a huge, huge fight, and I think a lot of us were asleep. We're taking it for granted. We hear it in at the back of our head, redistricting, fair election, fair representation, but I doubt that we get it. So without further ado, Jerry, I want to bring you on, expand your screen. And we tried this Wednesday again, but we had some glitches. So I want to try this again. Most of our viewers have heard of you. They know who you are by name. They see you on TV. But just as a refresher, kindly give me the genesis of Jerry Enriquez and how you got to this point of fighting for fair elections, redistricting, fair representation.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Cyril. I am really glad to be here again. I definitely, I'm pleased to join again. Wednesday, we attempted our first a broadcast based on the topic tonight, and there were some technical difficulties. So I'm glad that we can come back, and I'm looking forward for our discussion with you tonight and with the viewing and listening audience about this very important topic. You asked me about how I got to this. And well, first, let me say that for those who do not know me, I'm from PG, made in PG, born in PG, went to school in PG. I was a high school teacher there, primary school teacher there, since way back in the late 1970s. And I was very active, even when I was at the high school at the time, in lobbying for and in agitating for improvement of secondary education there in the Toledo district because it was my experience when I was teaching there way back in the early 80s that there was a decline in our education system in the high school there, and there seemed not much care about that decline. And so I took up the struggle alone, even without the support of my fellow teachers at the beginning, and really pushed hard to find ways to improve the standard of education there. And that included, I was able to secure some, for the first time, some scholarships for high school students from TCC to go to SJC. I was close to the Jesuits at the time, and I was able to point out that these opportunities for high school students in Toledo did not exist. And so that started a stream of scholarships for high school students from Toledo to go to SJC sixth form at the time. I was also involved in the Maya land rights movement. I served on the board of several organizations where I could challenge some of my ideas and my thoughts towards them meeting some of their goals effectively. For example, I was involved in SPHERE. I was involved in Belize Environmental Law and Policy Organization. I was involved with Julian Cho Society on the boards, also a founding member of Tide and now chairman of the board of Tide in MPG. And so I have wide range of experience nationally and internationally as an educator and a consultant. But more importantly is that I always look to ensure that there is justice, that there's fairness in our government's governance system. And so whatever it takes, I do my part as best as I could to ensure that there is justice, as I am doing right now with the struggle for electoral justice in Belize. So that's my struggle. Even if I take it alone, but I can rest in satisfaction that I have done my part rather than I could just go like many people just travel around chasing materialistic and sensual pleasures in the name of
Mhm.
or the delusion that it is happiness. But the bottom line that people should ask is my society, what can I do to make my community, my society, my country better than the way I found it? How can I
Yeah.
contribute to that cause? And that is a motivation for me. So that's me in a nutshell as an educator and as a consultant. I take on a lot of struggles and fights. Sometimes it's very tiring, it's hard. I watch even friends see the same situation with apathy, but sometimes we can only look with compassion also as we engage in struggle for the betterment of our society. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Jerry, thank you for that introduction. You know, as we start to dive into the topic for tonight, highlighted at the top is follow the money. We're going to get to that in just a bit. But In this fight for redistricting, in this fight for fair election, while you're here to share with us the updates, what you've been up to, what's going on in the courts, what do you see in terms of the mentality of the people, the voters, and those who don't probably participate in the elections?
Sadly, there is over years and increasingly so, people are not caring as much as they should to ensure that our democratic system is not does not continue to be hijacked by a few families and political party interests. I call them the oligarchs or the city boys, and utilizing that system for their benefit in the name of the people of Belize. And it is happening over and over and over and getting worse, as we will see in the vast imbalance in the electoral divisions to suit a few persons who are insistent on maintaining this system even when they are breaking the law. So they can quickly try to find resolutions, ineffectively so, like the proposing a 13th Amendment for those who break the law. But we probably need a 13th Amendment for these guys who consistently break the Constitution of Belize. We need an amendment that could hold them to task, that they should not dare of their own whims and fancies to continue to break the law and get away with it and involve innocent Belizeans in the process of breaking the law. So, right now, this political party administration is ruling this country and got into power unconstitutionally, and then people are just accepting it. So, you have, and then the other hand, there's a vast silence among the trade unions, the teachers unions, the network of NGOs, the bar association, even the church association, council of churches, civil society organ. They're just watching and, in a sense, become numb to the fact that our constitution, the supreme law of Belize, is not upheld by both political parties, and they quietly follow like sheep, and not do anything to correct it. There's a weakness also in the way that a lot of civil society organizations look at how this is managed. As long as their interest is violated, then they get, if it is not violated, they keep quiet. For example, the teachers union, the public service union,
Mm-hmm.
once they get their salary adjusted, they go back into this, in this loud silence, not caring about anything.
Yeah.
um, and in fact, they will go to the same political um, administration that hijacked the election, and then just go back to ask them for, instead of looking at the deep structure of these people who are there unconstitutional. So you're going into asking those who are there unconstitutionally for an adjustment in your salary rather than correct the system and make sure that there are accountability and transparency measures in place that this does not happen. So what these political parties can do is manipulate those kinds of voices. Oh, the teachers want increase in salary, they're making too much noise. Give it to them, they keep quiet, and we could do anything else because they will continue to keep quiet. That is the system that we're under, and that is the habit that we're seeing over and over, and that does not lead to effective transformation of our society from colonial times. So we're worsening in our democracy. It is spiraling downward, and civil society organizations continue to remain silent. So I will call them to task, to let the population know that those who are we are expecting to lead and to call out all these kinds of violations of the Constitution are a core violation that they kept quiet and they did not do anything. History will judge them on that silence that they have maintained, and it will see their moves as purely selfish. They come out and say, "We got your back," only when it is for their own salary interest. Of course, as I said over and over, I respect the unions and the teachers for, of course, standing up for their right to a fair compensation. But at the same time, the very structure that you use to go to ask for that fair compensation has broken the law to be in power to compensate you, and you see nothing about it. So that is a disturbing situation that continues
It
over and
is.
over and over. So I would like to hear those some voice from these organizations to say that this violation must end. Never again should any political party continue to blatantly, consistently violate the Constitution for their narrow political interest rather than the broader national interest.
Jerry, there is a lot we don't understand as a people. And
Yeah.
I want to share this, and then you could lead the direction as to where you want to take this, because you have a presentation to share as well. Walk us through the idea of taking the government to court. And one of the things that I would like you to touch on is the fact that I want to rewind all the way, I believe, in January when you first got this started. Now, the way it works, right? Correct me if I am wrong. You sent a letter to the Governor General informing or suggesting to the Governor General that it is unwise to sign off on the idea of having an election before redistricting. Now, the Governor General sends that letter to the Attorney General. Am I right?
Okay.
Or right?
Um, I could go through that. Let me do that first. Then I want to talk to create to show the background as to where the Constitution
Yeah,
stands on this, and
and
then
part
come
of
back.
it
But
is
let me say
because
this
I
first.
want people to understand how corrupt the system is. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I've written before January. I've been writing for at least 10 to 15 and speaking about this severe um, malapportionment is the word, but it is also it is to say an imbalance in our electoral division, and I will show you a little later how it is one of the worst in the world in the imbalance. But I'll get to that soon. So I've written. I used to write, um, talk about it on some TV shows, and then I decided in January, late January, that something has to be done because this is the final year of before elections. And although the government kept promising, and we will show some clips of the prime minister even 2 years before election saying, yes, we have to get this done. It is important that we abide by the constitution. He kept saying that he promised the people that he will abide by the constitution. So coming on to January, I sensed that there was some preparation going on for election. I did not know when it was going to be, but fortunately, I was able to secure the services of an attorney who happens um, to be not from Belize, a brilliant attorney from Trinidad, just because I know the experience of the Belize Peace Movement also, that they've been trying over years to have the support of Belizean attorneys to take this matter to court. For some
Mhm.
reason or another, it is most difficult to find Belizean attorneys to support. There were a few who came on board with the Belize Peace Movement, and we're very grateful for that. I'm very grateful to
Mhm.
see that. Um, but it also took a lot of resources that the Belize Peace Movement, who was doing that before my time, had to take out of their own pockets. These guys were taking money out of their pockets to pay the Belizean authorities. And it is in that context also that you did not find any Belizean attorney who was any other of maybe two or three who was willing to take on this case, unless maybe they were paid by Ashcroft, one in the case of one attorney. Um, so here's this disturbing issue. No Belizean attorney. Fortunately, first I was looking for an attorney in Jamaica. I asked our former professor to please recommend to me if he knows anybody, and then just by some sort of um, manifestation, I was in touch with this attorney. I was introduced to this attorney from Trinidad, and he decided that he would take on the case. A very brilliant, well-renowned, highly distinguished attorney. I was able to secure. Um, and so since we saw election was coming, we wrote a letter, we call it a pre-action letter. A pre-action letter is to indicate that we are are planning to sue to make matters right. So we wrote a reaction letter to the Attorney General of Belize to say the government has not fulfilled its duty to redivision the electoral divisions in such a way that it is in compliance with the Constitution, and therefore any election that will be called under the status quo is unconstitutional. The government knows that. We reminded the the Attorney General, the Prime Minister, but most importantly also, we reminded the head of state, the Governor General, who knows that an election called under this most severe malapportionment is unconstitutional. What the Governor General did was to have her attorney, instead of the Attorney General, her attorney, who is in the Courtney and Courtney's law firm, to say that, um, in a sense, that they will not have, that the election will go through. So she also turned a blind eye to our plea to rectify the situation. So did the Attorney General, so did the Prime Minister, so did the Elections and Boundaries Commission. And so it is all, in a sense, a rotten corruption and collusion by all levels of our government, betraying the Constitution and the trust of the people. So from the Governor General to the Prime Minister to the Attorney General and the Elections and Boundaries Commission, we must say categorically that they failed the Belizean public and they are wrapped up in non-compliance with the Constitution, and therefore that stinks of corruption. So where do the people turn to when their rights are being violated? And that's the struggle that we have. And so that is why we decided to take the matter to court, because the very core, the contract that the government enters into when they get into office, every time a political party gets into office, each member who is elected puts his or her hand on the Bible as a mark of their respect for a sacred tradition to say on oath, I swear to abide by the Constitution, and within the next breath, they are breaking the Constitution. Such shame that we have, shameless leaders. Just rip that up. And I often say they might as well put their hand on a Nancy storybook, because
Yeah.
there's no value to what they're saying with their hand on the Bible and not abiding by the Constitution and just going ahead to call the election. And the opposition party also falling in line with that because of petty, greedy, narrow interests rather than the national interest.
Wow. This is, um, I won't go to the comments just yet, but I
But people
hope
afraid
that
to talk about these things. People
yeah,
are
yeah,
totally afraid. There's a whole national uh, mood of fear to challenge the system, and understandably so sometimes. But if we give power to these guys to be able to manipulate and create this fear, and sometimes the only way that we could liberate our mind is to stay with the truth, to challenge the
hmm
system fearlessly. And that is the only way to transform. But it has to start with our minds, to transform the mind so that no one should instill fear for us to be able to pursue truth and justice. And that is the story of humanity. Those who are pursuing truth and justice, there's all kinds of silliness to alienate them, to try to undermine them, to try to threaten them, all silliness. But we must be aware that those things can happen. And we say, well, that's part of the process. So I
right,
want to be very clear to people out there who are listening that I am not doing this on behalf of any political party, because sometimes when you're fighting a situation against one party, they want to say, oh, you belong to the other party. That kind of foolishness, that kind of
yeah,
political divisiveness suits those
hmm
political parties well. And so I want to state very clearly that I have written about this situation when the UDP was in power, and they resisted also. The PUP came into power saying that immediately they will address the issue. We're down 5 years now, and they failed, and they continue to promise. And so um, I just want to say I am not a member of any of the political parties. I'm here to stand up for what is right, for electoral justice, because this issue is affecting a vast population of our country. They're marginalized. Southern Belize consistently continues to be marginalized. The people can't even have their own representatives. Their representatives are imposed from outside. And so you have vast parts of the population are underrepresented just so that the city boys can maintain their oligarchic greed and try to control the entire nation in this imbalanced electoral system.
put city boys into context.
Those this I'll put it in the context when we look at the the numbers and the to show the vast imbalance in our electoral divisions. But it means that there are a few uh, families, political party interest that is deeply rooted in the colonial thinking that the city must be the rule for the rest of the country, no matter what, rather than distribute power fairly to the rest of the
hmm
country. They want to maintain. My daddy was prime minister, so in this tiny electoral division, so I will do anything possible to prevent fair apportionment of electoral divisions. That is what is happening. None of them, if both political parties are speaking out to say, listen, we also have people, Belizeans in other electoral divisions whose voices must be heard. We cannot
hmm
maintain our own small, narrow, underpopulated electoral division and then become this minister who will prevent us the redivisioning to create fairness as is stated in the Constitution. So I want to talk a little bit about the Constitution just quickly, just to create that basis for people to be reminded about why this is grounded in the supreme law of our country.
All right. Should I bring up that slide?
Yeah, yes. If you have it, just tell me when you're ready. But I
All
could
right.
start.
All right. Give
So
me.
it's just a few
Okay. I have it.
slides
Go ahead.
to look at what the Constitution says in regards to redistricting. I have about 10 slides. I'll just go through it just to remind those. I remember meeting a guy yesterday in Belize City, and he was asking the same question. Why are you doing this? What is the basis of all this? Very interesting question that he did not grasp through the discussions that have been going on over the past few months. So, what the Constitution of Belize says. The Constitution begins with some powerful words that says, whereas the people of Belize, so the Constitution is like the supreme law, it is a contract, it is a document that is the people's consent to be governed under a particular way. So before we have any political party come into power, they have this document to say this is what the people vote you to do. This is how we must be governed. This is the contract under which you serve. It's not the other way around. It's not that the political parties come in and say that this is how we want to do. That would be chaos. It is a set of written rules accepted nationally and internationally to say this is how we are to be governed, and we are electing you under these rules. This is how it is supposed to be. The next slide, then, just to confirm that the Constitution, I want everybody to remember this, is the supreme, the highest law of the land. If there's any other law that is not consistent with the Constitution, that other law, to the extent of where it is inconsistent, is deemed void, so that there could be no law that violates the supreme law. So I just wanted to get that very clear. Again, this Constitution is the highest law of the land. On the next slide, then, as I mentioned, so you can't say it is optional to abide by the Constitution. You can't say, well, I feel like abide by this part, but not by this part. I feel like we should follow this part and not this part. All citizens of Belize, all political parties, all leaders, all organizations, all individuals must abide by the supreme law. That is the supreme law. So it's not an optional choice by any political party to say, well, I don't like how this one sounds. I could do this one later. I don't want to do this one right. That is not an option of any political party or individual. And I mentioned in the next slide, that is why when members of the National Assembly take office, they make an oath. And you will hear this at the beginning of each term of office. And that oath says, I, whoever it is, it could be John 𝐸𝐵𝐶𝐸, it could be Cordell Hyde, it could be Tracy Tager Pandan, but whoever it is, I do swear. The word is not I think, oh, and I feel like, oh, I feel like I will. No, it says I do swear. And then on top of that, you're putting the hand on the Bible. That means you're giving the utmost commitment.
Yeah.
And what are you swearing? That I will bear true faith and allegiance to Belize, and will uphold the Belize Constitution and law. It doesn't say, well, I will try to figure which one of the Constitution I will use. I will try to figure out which one works for me.
Which one you like the most?
I don't like this one, so I feel like uphold. It says, I swear that I will uphold the Constitution, and that I will conscientiously, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge my duties as Prime Minister or Minister or whatever, and do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will. I will do right to all. And not say I will do right only to those who support me politically. It doesn't say I will do right only to my family members. It doesn't say I will do right only to my small constituency, I will do right to all manner of people without fear or favor, affection or ill will. And on top of that, they say, so help me God. Now, how much clearer can you get when you're swearing to abide by the Constitution? Put your hand on the Bible and you ask, so help me God, and then you continue recklessly to not abide by these constitutional requirements. That has to be very wrong, and the people must see through that. And people, to the extent that people continue to tolerate this blatant violation from happening is the extent to which these guys shamelessly continue year in, year out for decades to violate the Constitution and come back each time to say, I swear that I will uphold the Constitution. That has to be very wrong. And so people need to start to wake up and see through that, because as we continue to tolerate these things, you are burdening future generations with your complicity, and you're leaving things to happen the way it has. And slowly, our democracy continues to spiral. And as it continues to spiral, people have more fear. And I blame each generation for failing to call out these violations of the Constitution. And so, if we go to the other slide, then
Let me, before I hit the other slides, folks, I want to ask you to please share the live. If you have questions, write them down. Jerry will be answering questions as soon as he finishes these slides. So please share the lives. Comment if you have a comment. I will go and review the comment in just a bit. So let me pull up the next page. Here we go.
composition of the Elections and Boundaries Commission. So in the Constitution, in the supreme law, in this contract that politicians make when they get into office, there's a section that talks about the Elections and Boundaries Commission, who is in charge of the whole redivisioning, redistricting exercise in accordance with the Constitution. And so there shall be an Elections and Boundaries Commission, which shall consist of a chairman and four other members. And we have that commission, four other members, two selected by the Prime Minister with the advice of the leader of the opposition, two selected by the Prime Minister, and then the chairperson also selected by the Prime Minister. So we have, in effect, only the political parties represented in the Elections and Boundaries Commission. I believe it should be more broad-based, or that there should be men with integrity, as the Constitution says. Four other members who shall be persons of integrity and national standing, high national standing. That's what the Constitution says. So that this
Jerry,
commission then,
I want to make sure that people are understanding. So in other words, what you're saying that it's made up of most PUP members or
at
all
this
PUP
time,
members?
3 PUP, 2 UDP. That
Okay.
makes up the commission. But the problem is both PUP and UDP have demonstrated that they have no interest over the past few decades in redistricting or redivisioning our electoral divisions to make it fair as the Constitution mandates. It's not a suggestion by the Constitution. This is the law. And so to have that, to enable that to happen, we have the Elections and Boundaries Commission, who shall be persons of integrity and high national standing. Now, what we seem to have are persons of high political standing, political party standing, and therefore they have failed miserably in correcting the status quo. And I'll get back to that later. And I will say this again, they have failed to redivision our electoral divisions in in to be consistent with the Constitution. These are persons deemed to be persons of high national standing. And I say, as far as the results show, it has not translated to people looking for the national interest. In the next slide, let's name these persons who have failed the Belizean electorate over the past decade at least. They've failed to um, rectify the status quo. There's the chairman, Mr. Sabido. There is a member, Mr. Conrad Lewis, is from Stan Creek West, one of the most severely malapportioned electoral divisions, where so many communities are vastly underrepresented, and he lives in that area. And he's appointed by the Prime Minister to be in the Elections and Boundaries Commission, and he's lives in an area that is over 60% um, over the required standard for any electoral division. So you wonder, what are they doing? How effective are these persons of high national standing? Then you have Mr. Orlando Habet, also in an area that is malapportioned. Ms. Philippa Griffith Bailey and Mr. Alberto August represent the United Democratic Party in the Elections and Boundaries Commission. I have said that these men and one woman have failed the Belizean population miserably, and hopefully they have some conscience to have the national interest at heart rather than narrow political party interest or personal interest, or in their own delusional way of um, trying to justify the wrongs that continue to be committed against the Belizean people. So that's currently, these members currently stand as the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The next slide of, of the last three. How are electoral divisions divided? According to Section 90 of the Constitution, Section 91 says the Elections and Boundaries Commission, and I mentioned the members of that commission, shall, after considering the distribution of the population, not the population, that's the national population census, as the Minister of Constitutional Affairs erroneously argued to try to twist the essence of the Constitution. After considering the distribution of the population throughout Belize, make proposals from time to time for dividing Belize into electoral divisions in such a way that, and here are the conditions, if you go to the next slide.
Next slide.
Yes. In such a way that each electoral division shall have as nearly as may be an equal number of persons eligible to vote. There's an operational word there, eligible to vote. So each electoral division shall have nearly as may be an equal number of persons. The second part, clear the total number of electoral divisions shall not be less than 28, and we know that our electoral divisions are currently at 31. So that is already fixed. The second part of Section 90 says, in fixing the electoral divisions, the Commission shall have regard to transport and other facilities of the division and to its physical features, which means some divisions will be more expansive, large, covering much more area, and therefore some consideration has to be made as to how the numbers are the numbers deviate based on transport, other facilities. For example, you have Stand Creek West, which is a wide area, Toledo West, even Toledo East.
Over 10,000.
I'm talking geographical area. In
Okay,
comparison
okay.
to, let's say, Fort George, just walk around you could walk around that division within, let's say, even a few hours, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to Stand Creek West, where you have to visit Placencia, you have to visit Red Bank,
Yeah, take you
Georgetown,
some days.
Hopkins, St. Bite, um, Pomona, Middlesex, out of this, all of that area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you have one area representative covering that geographical expanse, and these ones in the city only the few blocks that they have to cover. So there has to be some kind of the Constitution says in fixing the boundaries, there should be some regard for that, for those geographical, those physical features. And finally, just to make sure and to be clear, I want to state that when you read Section 90 completely and get the essence, it is seeking to manage the number and the distribution of persons who are eligible to vote, not the entire population or all persons in Belize. It is focusing on the number of persons eligible to vote. So your redistricting has to do with your eligible voters.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you an eligible voter? You are registered to vote, and you live within a certain electoral division. So while it is important in the redivisioning to consider all the data, the compliance with Section 90 does not require consultation with the national census. It quite requires an observation or an objective analysis of the distribution of persons eligible to vote to fix those boundaries. I say that because there is a consistent attempt I noticed by the Minister of Constitutional Affairs, and perhaps um, he should be the least credible to be talking about this because it is blatantly obvious that he's trying to
For
protect
those in the
his small
diaspora,
constituency. Yes,
Jerry, for those in the diaspora, could you state the name, please?
state the what?
The name of the minister.
Oh, well, Henry Charles, the son of the former Prime Minister Musa Henry Charles, usher in one of the smallest electoral divisions, was made the Minister of Constitutional Affairs. And I believe it's a conflict of interest, and it is obvious, and it shows that he has tried to protect his small turf rather than look at the national interest. It is obvious in all that he says, the way he tries um, to misrepresent Section 90 of the Constitution. It's very clear that it is talking about. So, if you ask the question, did they prefer then to just enter elections with the severe malapportionment just because of the other issues like, oh, we needed to check the census first, we needed. No, the Constitution is clear. Electoral divisions must be equal or near as equal as possible so as to have
Yeah.
fair representation by international standards. Then it should be no more than 10 to 15% of deviation, and the prime minister has said that consistently, um, even before elections. So that is something important. So we have to have that clarity about what the supreme law says. If we do not know it, then these politicians continue to try to lead Belizeans innocently, use all the election finances and lead them into another unconstitutional election, bringing people into supporting their illegal act. If we had a strong opposition last election, they could have boycotted the election and say, we are not participating in something that is illegal, and continue to call the government to task and to court to make sure that it is legally done. So Um, that's the task that I have taken on
So
voluntarily and of my own resources with the support of an esteemed attorney. And while many Belizeans just sit on the fence, strangely, even some of my good friends watch me in the struggle. They do not say a word, not a word of with acknowledgement, support, nothing. So we have to go through those kind of struggle, even if it is a lonely struggle, but there's
so
the faith
I guess
for.
now is a good time to ask you. So I guess
I want
Michael Ashcroft is accurate about what he said about both the electorate and the leaders, and we will never have a third party because
Well, I've said
everybody is
that
corrupt.
before, Ashko, but I mean, he has more standing and stature, so it spreads even
Yeah,
more
people
like
here
wildfire
exactly.
because he said
But
it. But
you've been saying
I've
this.
been saying that over and
Yeah,
over. But Ashcroft said it, so it makes it a little more prominent for the reasons. But maybe he will have to come and say other things like what I'm saying about uh, the teachers and the union and all of them being quiet. But I've been
yeah,
saying this over and over. I want to go to just one final presentation is the numbers, just for people
sure.
again to see the numbers and the deviation.
Let's pull that up.
Electors by division as at May 2025, which is the most recent statistic that is posted by the Elections and Boundaries Commission on their website at the time when I checked. So, electors by division and sex. I
Let
just want to
me
show.
let me pull that up, Jerry.
Okay. The purpose is to show the numbers so people could see these numbers in plain sight and to see what is happening to this country. And again, it is hopefully people can have some deep concern, at least to speak about it, share the information, and to find a way to act in whatever way that they could act. I could say in other countries, these kinds of things call for overthrow of a government. It calls for revolution.
Oh
But
yeah.
in Belize, of course, they want to be in a
I'm
peaceful,
ready by the way.
constructive
So whenever
place.
you
And
are.
okay, so electors by division and sex as at May 2025. Here you will see in the green section, and for example, at the top, Stan Creek West has a total number of 10,788 electors. That means persons registered to vote. When I talk about the deviation, it means above the required. What if we had a balance? That would have been the average number, 6,704 for each electoral division. So when we talk about deviation, it means this one is above by 4,000, or we have 61% of persons in Stan Creek West over what is required for a normal electoral division or a
Wow,
balanced one.
that's huge.
By international standard, we should not have more than 10 to 15%. Now, this is at 61%, and this is climbing slowly. It was at 58, and now it's at 61. So that,
Wow.
again, I want people to keep in mind that it should not be above 10 to 15%. Stan Creek West is 61%, and Stan Creek West is where one of the members of the Electoral Elections and Boundaries Commission lives. And he's seeing this over and over, and yet nothing has been done to correct the situation. Likewise, Belmopan is 58% above what is required. And then the least rural south, which comprises of Key Caulker, San Pedro, and the Turnef Islands, is 53% above what is required. And if you go down all that green, Toledo East, 31% above, Cayo Central, 33% above, Cayo North, 35. So you have these figures in the green showing those ones that are most above. Again, the range 10 to 15%. Here we have 50%, sorry, 53%, 61%, 31%. That must be corrected to be in line with international standards of democracy. Otherwise, this is not a democracy.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely not.
showing blatantly that we are continuing to tolerate this egregious situation by both political parties. If you scroll down a little bit, you will have those that are already within 10 to 15%. For example, uh, even if you go to that 16%, you have Kaya West, Orange Walk East, Corozal North, Corozal Southeast, Lake Independence is within 3%. So that's fairly balanced. Corozal Bay is at 1%. That's the most balanced. Kaya Northeast
Corozal.
also the most balanced. All the way to
Mm-hmm.
Dangriga is within the the deviation that is acceptable. But if you go
So,
down,
so you're saying Dangriga is acceptable? I mean, we have
it's
over 6,266.
right, and if you look at it, it is short of 438 to make it a viable constituency. So it is within the number that is required for
Okay.
um, so Dangriga is in. But all 9 of 10 electoral divisions in Belize City, 9 out of 10 are severely imbalanced. If you look
This
at
is the orange
the
highlighted
orange
area.
section, yes.
Okay.
So you look at Belize Rural North, you look at pick stock is negative. All these negatives means it's way below what is accepted as for fair. If you go to Mesopotamia, for example, 65% under what is required to be an electoral division. 65%. That means, let me use it in terms of like a classroom. Let us say each classroom is supposed to have 100 students, just for argument's sake. And then you have Mesopotamia as a classroom would have only 35 students, while area like Lake Independence will have 100 students, about 100 students. And then Stan
Uh-huh.
Creek West will have 160 students. So if you use that kind of analogy, each classroom is supposed to have 100 students. Stan Creek West has 160. Mesopotamia has 35. They're 65% short, so they're only 35. You see the vast
Yeah.
imbalance there. Likewise, Fort George. In fact, you could combine some of these electoral divisions to make one electoral division. They're so short. Queen Square, 58% less than what is required. Fort George, from where the Minister of Constitutional Affairs was from, is I mean the former Minister of Constitutional Affairs, 62% under the um, required amount number of electors to be a balanced electoral division. So you have this vast disparity. Remember again, it should be plus or minus 10 to 15%, and you're
Right.
up to 65%, 62%, 58%, and one of the worst in the world and worsening, and people are just giggling and just asking for their own little their salaries when they're ignoring this basic structural um, and horrible situation that we're faced with, and which both political parties and the Electoral Boundaries Commission have failed to address, and which the Governor General is protecting. And so that's the status that we're faced with right now.
Now,
So I
we're
just wanted to present those numbers, and I presented the constitutional basis to show that there is wrong, being consistently on the governments of both political parties, consistently violate the constitution, and they are allowed to continue to govern. Um, so while they rush and try to have some amendments to take care of other people, I'm saying there should be some amendments to find ways to hold to accountable those political parties that violate the Constitution and involve innocent Belizeans in that process to consolidate their power and their petty, greedy political party interests over and above the national interest, which they swear to abide by in our Constitution. That is the challenge that we're facing, and that is the challenge that we have to say it ain't going to happen again. We cannot allow that to continue to happen. Promises made to correct it, promises broken over and over. So Belizeans must wake up to ensure that this doesn't continue to happen.
Jerry, we are close to the end of this show. Man, thank you so much for all this information. Folks, I hope those of you out there are listening, taking notes if you feel it's necessary to take notes, because all this is very, very important information. And like I said earlier, it is, I actually don't know what adjective to use, but for us to allow one man to take on this fight for redistricting when it's going to benefit most of us. It's going to benefit the people. Why are we not behind this? Why are we not letting our voices be heard? I don't think that only Jerry is supposed to fight this fight. Now, Jerry, you have written to the Attorney General. Could you give us a summary of that, and what are your expectations when it comes to that?
Well, let me first say that I also applaud the efforts of the Belize peace movement, who has also been in this struggle for a very long time on behalf of the people of Belize. People like, including Mr. Paul Morgan, Mr. Bobby Lopez, Hubert Enriquez, many others who have staunchly been also in court to defend the rights of Belizean for electoral justice. And so I just wanted to say that, and I continue to appeal to all our citizens to make their voices heard in this situation. Now, you asked me about the letter I recently wrote to the Attorney General. I want to know, the letter I most recently wrote is to ask the Attorney General, using the Freedom of Information Act, to um, let the Belizean people know, to reveal to us all how much money are they spending and have they spent in paying attorneys to fight against cases for constitutional and electoral justice. These cases that I have taken to court against the government of Belize for injunction against the elections, and all the cases they have been paying high-priced attorney to fight for against something that they ought to do. So instead of using that money to get into a proper redistricting, I want to know how much they're paying. So, and secondly, I just want to add that there is talk that, oh, maybe we need to expand the number of um, electoral divisions. That kind of thinking, again, is coming from um, those Belize City guys. We do not need more than 31. And the Constitution is very clear that it must be equal or near as equal as possible. Therefore, the Constitution does not have to spell out that it might be necessary to combine electoral divisions. All that is implicit in the Constitution, and therefore there is also not need to expand. You have in Jamaica over 2 million electors and you have like 64, so it's about 200 and odd 230,000 for each area representative. Here we have only 6,000 and 6,700, and we want to expand it and expand the national budget and increase spending just to accommodate more electoral divisions. I think that is nonsense. We have enough with 31, and there's no need to expand. We just need to redivision objectively and properly and effectively. I just wanted to also throw that out. And finally, it is interesting that Belize City, it is small space, relatively speaking, for each area representative, and overrepresented still has the struggle with the highest rate of crime and all of that. So what are these bloated number of area representatives doing if they cannot manage with their overrepresentation of Belize City? Then why do we want to expand to even more? So I think we should appropriately and cut down on the number of electoral divisions in Belize City, combine some of them as is required by the numbers, and then fairly apportion areas like Stan Creek West. Belmopan needs more than one area representative. All of this needs to be corrected, but it depends also on the voice of the people to support this critical situation.
What is your projection as to the outcome of this? What are you hoping for? But what's the reality? What's the reality of your projection?
The projection is this will continue, the struggle will continue until the redistricting is properly done. We have reported this matter also to the Organization of American States. They have written recommendations consistently to the government of Belize, I believe, since 2012, that redistricting, campaign financing, all of these things must be done to strengthen Belize's rapidly decreasing, declining democracy. We cannot continue like this. And I will say then, the next election will not be held under the status quo. The Prime Minister has again committed himself to correct this, and we will see this time if he's a man to his word, to what he swore when he took office. He put his hand on the Bible again and swore. We will see the essence of the man who has failed in the first term to do the right thing. And so we're going to call him again to task that this must be done. So there ain't no way that this is going to blow away like a lee breeze, as a former prime minister rightly said, as he understood the Belizean population. They rail up and then they go away like a lee breeze. This time, this not a go away like a lee breeze. We have to stand together and consistently remind the government that they swore to abide by the Constitution. Each one of them swore to abide by the Constitution. Attorney General included, Prime Minister included, Deputy Prime Minister included, Elections and Boundaries Commission included. And so we will hold them to see which God they're swearing to respect the supreme law of Belize.
Jerry, this is I don't want to use words loosely and I don't want to be careless because this topic is very serious, and with all, it's obvious with all that we're seeing, with all that we hear, we talk about the Constitution. Is it safe to say that who have the baddest and biggest attorney with? Because the evidence is right there that it's a no-brainer. But yet we go through years, months, on fighting for fair representation. So is it that it is who have the best liars, who have the more money for spend on the best, biggest liars? Because
That is Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. The Constitution established the
it
standard and the
is.
law. The the fact though is that these guys just break the law and see what happens. And I know they know that they're breaking the law. They know it quite well because if you hear the pronouncement of the prime minister before election, yes, yes, we plan to do it. Yes, it is only right that we do it. We have to do it. But they know and they tread into kind of grounds in which they have broken the law and see what will happen, and then Belizeans do nothing about it, and so they just ride on
So
and
Jerry,
continue
I'm a
as if
bit
nothing
rough.
happened.
You're a diplomatic man, very diplomatic and professional. I'm a bit rough on the edges. So we'll talk about Henry Charles, who have what, Fort George?
Yes, the smallest, one of the second smallest constituency,
The
and he
second
was put in
smallest
charge
constituency.
of yeah, constitutional affairs.
Um, and then the small after that, that what Mesopotamia.
Yeah, right now it used to be under Shine Barrow, and now it is under Lee Mark Chung, the
So now
smallest.
under 𝐷𝐼𝐿. Most of
Yeah.
them are Belize City. We have Queen Square.
Yeah, Queen Square also was formerly under first Dean Barrow, of course, then his sister, and then now I don't remember
So
his name, but yeah, it's also under it is
Danomala,
no, he's for
Antonima,
fixed stock. But
Big
that is
Stock. Okay.
also under all of these, as I said, 9 out of the 10 Belize City constituencies are way under what is
In
um,
orange.
established, yeah, international standards for fair electoral divisions
So
within
it
10 to
is
fifteen
clear that
percent.
most of these electoral divisions are in Belize City. And
Most of those that are severely under the
they are
required,
malapportioned,
yes,
that Belize
yes,
City.
but also remember those at the top in green are also malapportioned, so they are way above what is required.
Right,
Stan
right.
Creek West, so they are also malapportioned, and there are
On
others
the
that just
higher on
yeah, I just shaded the higher and the lower end, but those in the middle tend to be, quite within, like of course, North, Stan Creek, sorry, Dangriga, all of those other gray and white sections.
so again, right? And then folks, those of you out there, please, I'm asking to share this live because we need to get people to understand what they happen. This is great disadvantage taken. This is great disadvantage taken. For example, Jerry,
But
recently
the law is also
we
broken. We have to, it's clear. The law is
and
broken.
yeah,
There
and
are a
it's
set of
illegal.
criminals running the country.
That's it. Point blank.
Yeah,
A set of, you
yeah.
said it right, a set of criminals running the country. But I want to give this typical example, right? We have Reverend Barbara Marie, and I bring up the situation maybe the third time for this week. She goes to the bus station, to the bus stop, goes there about 7, hoping to catch the 7 or the 7:30 bus, stays there until almost 10 o'clock. Nobody don't send no bus to come, or when one bus do come, it can fill. And that's because people who were sitting there say to her, we there for 5 o'clock, 5:30. So this might sound like you don't have nothing to do with redistricting. But in essence, we have very poor political power, right? We have very poor political strength here when it comes to Dangriga. We have over 6,300 voters. Pickstock and the rest, they have 2,000 plus. So with redistricting, once they divvy up this thing equally or near equal, is it safe to say that the South will experience better, to some extent, better quality of life or have more? Is
Well,
it safe to say that?
let me say that the redistricting is not the magic one. But that is a start to have fair representation.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have to look at campaign financing. We have to look at the building the quality of leadership. We have to build. It's a whole. But this is a step that must be taken first to respect the people's right to fair representation. Because if you have an area like Stan Creek West, where you only have one area representative, how in the world can he manage that vast expanse of communities
Mm-hmm.
as compared to a little area like Mesopotamia? You could walk around the block and meet people, and that's it. It is vastly imbalanced, and so you have within Stan Creek West alone, we could say, which is a fact, the people of Placencia, seen by Hopkins, Georgetown, Maya Center, Red Bank, um, Pomona, all of these communities are not properly represented. There's no way Rodwell could handle all of these. He should be one within the cabinet to say this must stop. But yet you wonder what is the essence of a man who um, is not doing that which he swore to do and in compliance with the Constitution. Likewise, the other people with severe, especially those who are over, they're sitting in cabinet. What are they saying? What kind of commitment do they have? I wanted to use another word, but I'll temper it. Um, uh, for these men to sit there and just see over and over that, and they know that they cannot effectively manage this vastly malapportioned division. But it's almost like it's shoved down their throat to say, well, we don't feel like abide by this part of the Constitution, so make it pass. The same thing I said at the beginning. It is not optional to nitpick and say we will abide by this law and not abide by this law. You can't, no political parties above the law. And so they're making themselves above the law. And that must stop, but it depends also on the population. You don't need another time, Ashcroft, to come another time to say it. I said it
Yeah.
also that the population must assert itself and stop being just sitting on the fence while you see your country going down and down. You are making a great injustice for the
Yeah.
future generation if you continue to do this. So I call on all civil society organizations to say something. The law, the supreme law, is broken by a rogue or by rogue political parties. They're leading Belizeans innocently to break the Constitution. These are criminals running the country, and they feel this sense of entitlement that they could run it as if they are new kings in their new territories, not without the understanding that they are there. The people put them there to serve. The people put them there on the contract that they swear they will abide by, and that is the Constitution, and they're not above the law. I'm fortunate, I'm fortunate that I learned very early from my father, who is a teacher, activist, and all of that, when he told me we don't look up at anyone, to anyone, don't look down at anyone. That means treat everybody with equal respect. No one is above the law, and we treat and we demand the kind of respect that is expected in this
Mm-hmm.
case with the core values in the contract of the Constitution that they swear to abide by. So help me God, is what they say as they make this shallow swear, empty swear, without any essence of respect to what they're swearing by, and just consistently break the law. That must stop.
Yeah, we're mostly responsible, Jerry, and that's why I keep asking everyone out there. We are all suffering under the grip of this, our colonial handover. You know, we are so colonized that, and what gets to me too, Jerry, we know these people. I keep saying we know their names, we know their faces, but we bulk all of them in one under this sheet called GOB, the government of Belize. These are people just like me and you taking advantage of us every single day.
And
Taxpayers'
then,
money. They're
yes,
using thousands of dollars to pay high-powered attorneys to do what? To fight against something that is good for you. To fight
and to
against
fight some,
something that is good for
and
me
something
and
that
you.
they have swear to
And
uphold.
exactly, they're
Yeah,
breaking laws. They're not abiding by the highest law in the land, which is the Constitution.
right.
Jerry, we're at the end of our time. Is there any one of these videos you want me to play, or you recommend I just to kind of
Well,
give
I
us
just want, there's
some?
one short video that you have with the Prime Minister promising to,
Which one is it?
2 years ago. Just put anyone with the Prime Minister promising, it's about
All
two
right, let
minutes.
me
He promised, uh,
let me share this one here.
just to show that he made the promise, he recognized the importance of it, but by some, I think he's manipulated by the city guys, the city boys, because he knows that it is what he's doing is wrong, but they want to maintain the status quo.
All right, I'll play this video.
It's very
Yeah.
important to point out that as a government, we, or the cabinet, we don't control that exercise. It is done independently through the Elections and Boundaries Commission. But it is an important exercise because we need to try to keep as best as we possibly can the one vote a vote in Fort George supposed to count as much as a vote in Orange Rock Central,
Thank you.
or in Belize Rural South, or in Belmopan. And that is why the redistricting will be able to try to change the boundaries and to be able to, for most constituencies to be close to equal. There's usually I think about a 10% plus or minus that you can play with. I wish we could see with 31 seats, but I don't know what is going to be the recommendation. Probably the recommendation is that maybe a few more seats because of the growth, especially in the 𝐷𝐿 district. Quite likely Belize City is going to lose a few seats because the growth has been outside of Belize City, or the tremendous growth has been outside of Belize City. So we just have to wait and see. Once they make these recommendations, then it goes to the National Assembly, and then the National Assembly would say yes or no.
And
But it has to happen, and before the next election.
Should I play one more?
It's very important to point out that as a government, we have to do it before the next election. As it is right now, this is an exercise that is handled by the Elections and Boundaries Commission. The Elections and Boundaries Commission has set up a small team of technical people, including a statistician, having someone from that has training in lands, in the land, and also other people, and they are the ones that are going to come up with a number of recommendations, whether we need to expand more, if we need to expand into more constituencies, or we're going to keep the same 31 constituencies. They will make that recommendation to the Elections and Boundaries Commission. Once that recommendation is made, then that goes to the National Assembly for acceptance or not.
All right, you want to comment, Jerry? Jerry,
Yeah.
you want to comment?
Yeah. I just wanted to end just so. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I just wanted to comment just to show that the Prime Minister has repeatedly promised over time that it has to be done. In the last election, it was not done. And so we will have to continue to hold him to task and to account so that no longer will he be swayed against doing what is the right thing. So I just want to leave with that. I really thank you for having me on the show. I hope that I was able to shed some light. There's lots more that we could talk about the court cases, the judicial misconduct and corruption, and all of these things need to be exposed. But I'm glad that we're able to talk about what the Constitution says and to show what the violation consistently is happening and the need for correcting that. Thank you very much for having me.
Jerry, thank you so much. I don't know if you want to afford us about a couple seconds, at least less than a minute, just to acknowledge some of these comments. You have some fans, some people out there who look forward to hearing from you, so I want to acknowledge them as well. We have Susan Corrales. She's a warrior. Susan, I'll get to your comment. We have Blaine Carlis. The promised land is being, oh, this is a long one. The promised land is being torn apart like the garment of Jesus until we own conservation and fund ourselves. I'll come back to your comment, brother. We have Hams Flores. PSU is a disappointment. Hams as well. PSU should be pushing redistricting, reason being it has nothing to do with politics, but the betterment for the people. PSU is quick to cave on to the government. We have Susan, the Prime Minister's son, the nepotism hire of Belize. They are fraudulent people, she said. Susan said, Mr. Enriquez, as Belize moves through the redistricting process, what immediate steps can we as Belizeans take to ensure our voices are heard? In the South, the new electoral boundaries need to reflect fair representation for our Garifuna and Maya community constituency. Do you want to
Yeah,
comment before we shut off?
I think people should to lend their voices to this to continue to happen. You can't keeping silent in the face of all these injustices is we just continuing to tolerate the situation from happening. So say write it in your word and say it, find ways to expose the system, but you have to consistently do it. Don't let it go away like a leaf breeze. The more people raise their voices, the more chances are for us to be heard. So we need all hands on deck. Write the prime minister, write your area representative, write it on your social media post, make the discussion happen, and let it be loud and clear that the people of Belize will no longer tolerate the imbalance in their electoral divisions.
Very good. Two more comments here. Warrior Carib, we are brainwashed and bought into narrative status quos, party politics and race relations, and privileged to continue robbing the people. Wonderful, Susan said, wonderful presentation. We support you all the way to the goal.
And just
Macario
in response to
Augustine.
Warrior, I definitely on point that there's people have been in a sense brainwashed over time to just accept, and that is the struggle. How do we liberate the minds of people to be able to get out of that what I call sleepwalking? They're sleepwalking through life, and they need to find ways to just awaken and just let their voices be heard without fear.
Susan, I want to ask you a favor. You had shared the link for the GoFundMe in the past. If you don't mind, if you have access to that, kindly share that link in the comment for me as well. For those of you listening, I will post the GoFundMe link on my page on Obafo TV, and I'll also post it on my personal page, Cyril Uruwei. I am humbly asking each and every one of you, let your voices be heard. If you can contribute $5, if your family member could contribute at $10, 50, whatever you can contribute toward the fight for fair representation, I ask as your friend and brother that you chip in to this fight. Jerry, thank you so much. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, thank you so much, my brother. You're always willing to just jump on and come hang out with me and feed the people with good information. Folks, those of you out there, thank you for joining. I hope that you will follow this case, get in the fight, share the live, let your voices be heard. Have a blessed night. Good night to each and every one of you. My brother Jerry, Ava Iseni, Bandi
Thanks very
Iseni,
much, man.
Inebese.
Okay.
One love. Zavia Afiene Beiba Omoga. Good night to each and every one of you. Until Wednesday night again. See you on Dangriga Unmuted.